I swear there's always something. So hopefully Heather's going to get an alarm here that says that I'm live so that we know for sure that we're live. But anyway, you're here with 51st Chapters. I am Nikki Trampo. This is
Heather Clark.
Yes, and we're talking today about Show, Don't Tell. There is a, around here, famous... Oh, darn. Okay, I thought somebody was here with us live. We're going to keep waiting, so go ahead and chat us.
Someone registered
hey,
video.
We have 7 people. Okay. Thank you. Thank
We're
you so
actually
much.
live.
I'm so excited.
We're such narcissists. We just need to know someone's watching.
No, it's like super cool. Plus, it told us we were live last time, and we were not live.
And it lies.
It was lying to us.
Okay.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, the best part is now that we're live, we are actually showing them that we are going to do a webinar and not telling them about how we were going to do a webinar.
Great. Okay, so, few announcements. If you chat us, you have the opportunity to win a free first chapter critique.
Yeah, and actually we're going to give away 2, because I'm going to do one too.
Yeah, I figured that I didn't... we were kind of pressed for time, as usual. So, yeah, so 2 of us. And also, oh man, it is hard with all the comments. We'll get to your comments, we promise, but for right now, we're going to kind of ignore you, because, then we can do this. Also, the first chapter contest is really early after registration. Registration for LDS Story Makers, which if you're from Utah, hopefully you're going there because it's awesome. But let me try to make that see this a little better. But there is a first chapter contest every year, and the deadline is February 6th. So get going on your first chapters and turn those in. And before you turn it in, though, hopefully this will help you to just make it better and whatever. So we're going to be talking about showing and don't telling. Tell us what does it mean to show and not tell?
Well, I was just saying that my husband is always after me. He's like, writers always tell. That's what we do. We tell stories. Get over it. And I'm like, no, for real. I'm like, it's creating with your language these really powerful images and metaphors that can give you a visceral experience. So that when I read a book, I'm not reading about you telling me something. I'm living an experience.
Right. Okay. So and that's what I wanted to talk about. So like you, I think, are a good storyteller, meaning that when we're in a public setting, you tell a funny story. So she'll have like a car accident or a flat tire or even something negative, and she tells us a funny story about it and we all laugh about it and it's entertaining. That is actually telling a story, and it's fine to be a fun storyteller, but that when you write those things down, those strategies that you have for when you're talking out loud, when you write verbatim the way you would say a story to somebody out loud, you write it down, it just doesn't come to life.
You don't have body language, you don't have facial expression.
The way that it would. And I think a lot of times early writers, what they do is they tell a story the way that they would tell it to a friend, except that they put, some dialogue tags and some dialogue. She said. But essentially, other than that, maybe they'll like describe a facial feature now and again. But other than that, they are literally telling you the story.
Then we went to the store. Then we had dinner.
He was so mad that he blah blah blah.
Right.
He was so mad that his face turned red or whatever, and like that is actually telling us the story rather than just saying his face turned a shade of tomato red or blah blah blah. So we're just going to talk about what the difference is between the two, and then we're actually going to, when this is over, hopefully you can see the language on top of the Facebook Live thing, and we're going to move over to YouTube. Sorry about that, but I didn't realize that I wanted to, here, I can show you actually, but I want to show you what's on my screen. See, I have a whole scene written so we can talk about what specifically was showing and what specifically was telling. So we're going to actually show you instead of just tell you what we mean by show, don't tell. I think that's really going to be helpful. So, but I just decided that after I'd already advertised. Okay, so tell us about, we're going to start.
Shh! Shut up, Nikki, shut up.
She's just listening to make sure it's
No,
going.
I was just trying to see if I could respond to your comments.
Okay, we're going to have to respond to the comments later.
Excuse me, I'm on my phone texting. You guys continue.
It's too hard. Okay. So tell us about, we're going to start with, we talk about this a lot, but we're going to start with motivation reaction units, because the way to show and not tell is to have something happen to the character and then to show the character's reaction rather than just telling all about that.
Right.
And so that's, oh geez, sorry. I'm just trying to fix our lighting here, but whatever. We're just going to leave it the way it was. Okay, so tell us about
motivation reaction units. Okay, so we first have a stimulus. So like I smacked Nikki. No.
Wait. Will some wonderful person who already has this handout go get the link for it and put it in the comments? I should have done that. I should have put it on our thing, but I forgot. So there's a link to this. It's a Google Doc. It's on my website. You can go to
get 2 entries.
You get, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get a double entry. That's a good idea. Okay, that is a good idea.
But complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have our first thing. Our first motivation unit is like I slap Nikki. That's the stimulus, right?
Right.
And then she's got to react. And then what we have here, and this is interesting, the way that the motivation reaction units work, the order that they happen in, you don't have to have every single one of them, but they have to be in this order.
Right.
Because if you do it in a different order, it's not what's physiologically like possible.
We will show you an example. So what we mean though by that is when someone hits you, you actually don't say ouch before you feel pain. So you can't write ouch before you write
ouch.
Pain exploded in my eyes. Lightning, whatever.
Right, it feels off, right? So then we've kind of outlined it here for you. That we have the internal reaction first, which is the feeling or the emotion. The pinprick causes pain.
Oh yeah. They don't have that. So
they don't have that. Okay.
Pause for a second. If you have the handout, we're going to think of 3 examples. These are really easy. They're supposed to be easy. Of what a feeling or an emotion is, because sometimes people get stuck on that. So after someone hits you, you have an internal reaction, which is a feeling, usually a physical response.
And it's not going to be a feeling of like, oh, I hate Nikki so bad. That comes later.
That's a thought. We're talking a physical sensation kind of feeling or an immediate emotion. So if I'm hit, my physical sensation is
pain.
It's pretty easy. My emotion might be anger, surprise maybe, if it like came out of nowhere. I know I get angry.
Right.
I really do. So, but I put on here a pinprick causes pain. And sometimes these are very obvious. So if you have your character get hit, you might not spend a lot of time. If it's not a super pivotal moment, you might not spend a lot of time saying that it was painful because it's kind of like duh.
Right.
But you would be surprised how confused readers will be, and we will look at an example. So right now we're just going over it so that you have the same definitions for all of these things that we have, and then we're going to go over examples. Okay, what about rain? So rain falling on your face, that could feel what?
Cold.
Right.
Annoying.
Right. And I had...
Soothing.
Like, it could feel soothing. So if you're envisioning this scene where some rain is falling on some character's face, and you're just thinking, like, it's so great, and they're like, I don't understand this character at all. This doesn't make any sense to me. That's because you didn't describe how it felt to that person.
Exactly, because then they won't understand their decision to keep standing in the rain, or they won't understand whatever it is.
Right, they just won't get it.
The other thing is, and we'll get to this later, about how you're using your environment and everything you're going to want the rain to feel how that person's going to feel.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
So if that person's agitated right now, the rain is not comforting, unless it is the one thing that's breaking them out of their agitation.
Right.
You
so
can
that's
use it that
another
way.
thing. So you don't want to dwell on the things that aren't fitting their emotional status. So, yes, if they're happy, if they prick their finger, probably it's going to hurt. But you're not going to dwell on that because you're dwelling on all the stuff that they're dwelling on, which is all the stuff that's making them happy.
Right.
Which is like soothing rain or
right.
whatever.
Their perceptions will be colored. So, right. And then she had the noise of kids whining. That's another stimulus there.
And it makes people angry.
Makes everyone feel soothed and happy. That's why we have so many.
We're not going to discuss why we have so many.
Okay.
That's off topic.
Okay. And then this is important from the handout that the internal reaction is often skipped because it is obvious. You don't have to hit all these things, and if you hit all of them every time, it's a problem.
So somebody asked if you describe how they're feeling, is it considered telling? And that depends on how you describe it, and we're going to look at specific examples. So if you say literally,
that hurt really bad.
Yeah, if you say that hurt really bad, that's telling. But if you say a lightning bolt of pain jolted through his head or whatever, that is more showing. But we're going to talk about how you can change that up by using metaphors and things. You don't always have to describe people's
And also, we often skip right to
sensation.
the external or visceral reaction, and the visceral reaction can show you the pain.
Right.
So you can wince, you can recoil, you can have all these these things that happen here. So, like, you cry out in pain.
Right.
You don't then have to say, it hurt really bad.
Right.
So badly that I cried out in pain.
Right.
You know,
you don't have to do
don't.
that. Right. Right. For rain tickling the face, so think of an external reaction for that. I'm just going to give you a minute. What do you think you could do for that? You could type it in the comments if you want to. So, like, rain tickle. So you're, like, typing right now. You have rain tickles their face and soothes them. And then you want to do a visceral reaction to that. So they...
turn their face up for more, right?
They turn their face up for
them.
more. That's super simple. You're not trying too hard. That people can picture it with you.
Right, they can, and do that. And sometimes when I'm in my scene and I'm trying to figure out what happens next, I'm typing and then I stop And like I turn my face up for more, you know, like I'm
Absolutely.
experiencing it, and then suddenly the rain is a baptism, you know.
As soon as you're kissing your hand, though, that's when you know you've taken
don't
it too
kiss
far.
your own
Too
hands.
far.
Just don't tell me about it if you do.
Actually, that's true. Just don't tell us because you should totally kiss your own.
Or
hand.
do and do a webinar about it.
Okay. This is one I wrote. So, like, if you hear a gunshot, the logical response is to go away from it. But the automatic visceral response, these are automatic responses. The automatic response is to turn toward it because we turn toward things that are surprising to us, things that we're listening to. So, so again, this isn't, just to clarify, this isn't your decision reaction.
This isn't
this
like,
is
oh, cool, a gun,
automatic.
I'm going toward it.
This is your automatic.
This is your,
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're still on
it's
automatic.
the gasp.
Right.
Although please don't have them all be gasps. But that's what it is.
But yeah, it is.
Okay, when a kid climbs on... Yeah, okay, go on.
Just skip that.
All right, so then the thought, the mind's response, I think we often also can skip that one too.
We can, but here's the thing. The more pivotal your moment is, the more you're going to have to go through each one of these responses. And I just want you to know what they are so that when we cover it in the example, you know what we're talking about.
And particularly if you're doing something that, like she said, is pivotal to the story or surprises the reader in any way, then you have to actually walk through it. And this is one of the biggest problems that I had in my first draft of Tessa was that I never walked the reader through the things, so Tessa just seemed like a bad,
I just didn't understand her.
like a witchy person.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
That's how she seemed. She just seemed uniformly witchy.
That's actually what we're going to talk about next, and that's the difference between a decision and an action. Do you want to kind of take over?
No, you go for that.
Okay. So usually when we think of motivation and reaction units, we think of a motivation is like getting hit. The reaction unit is 4 parts, and the 4 parts are internal reaction, which we just talked about, external reaction, thought, and then we usually combine the last 2 because they're usually the same, which is decision and action. Because once you make a decision, then you do it, and you don't have to tell the reader both. Right? However,
the thought is she is such a freaking jerk, or you know, whatever.
Yeah. The thought is she's such a freaking jerk, so the action is I stood up and walked out, or whatever. But the thing is, there's a huge difference sometimes between our decision and our action. So, for example, we might decide as a mom, I'm going to be calm when my kids are whining. So they're whining at me, and you literally think, I'm going to be calm, and then you yell at them.
Right.
And then and that's what her character kept doing. Her character kept deciding one thing, and then doing another. And I thought, well, she's a jerk. She just doesn't care. But actually, she just had really low, poor self-control.
Right.
And she didn't know how to be the way that she wanted to be. So once we got a little bit more into what her decisions were, and then
walk through the thought and decision part rather than just combining decision action.
Right. It can be really interesting when you see someone make a decision, now I'm going to be calm, and then you see their action and you're like, oh, that didn't go well.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes, too, the decision... You might say, my decision now is I'm going to walk out that door and I'm going to tell him da-da-da-da-da. And sometimes the action doesn't work out because the door doesn't open because it's locked or because whatever. So you can be thwarted in 2 ways. 1, your own inability to do what your decision was, and 2, somebody else blocking you or the physical world blocking you or whatever. So where the decision and the action are not the same, you need to delineate what the decision was first and then show how the action was thwarted. Mm-hmm. So it's actually 5. It's a 5-part. Yeah.
You know, the guy who I read about this from first was on advancedfictionwriting.com, which he cribbed it also, I think, from Dwight Swain, probably Techniques of the Silent Writer or something.
I got it from Jack Bingham, who got it from Dwight Swain,
yeah,
I think.
Probably. But when I was reading about this, he said a perfect scene would be a string of motivation reaction units all the way through.
And you can totally do it.
It's not that hard to do.
It's not that hard.
And really, then the entire book should be larger motivation reaction units all the way through, and that would be scene and sequel, which we're not talking about today.
We're not going to...
But it really is powerful to have your whole story be these things layered upon layers. It's a motivation, it's a reaction. The reaction creates the next motivation, and you just move on.
And one thing that I'll say, and I think I wrote this in here, but maybe I skipped it. On the thought, when you're on the motivation reaction unit, when you're on part number 3, which is thought, if your character... Oh, yeah, it is written here somewhere. But if your character's a really good storyteller, they might spend a little time on thought. And I'm going to go to the end here, and I'm going to read some telling that Heather did in her Tessa book. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, because the telling can sometimes be fun. This is her telling the reader on page, 2 or 1.
What a crappy mom.
What a crappy mom she has. In her mind.
But instead of saying, I have a crappy mom,
she says, list of things that make you an acceptable mother. 1, feed the child. 2, house the child. 1, feed the child, check. 2, house the child, check. 3, be present anytime you force the child to get an abortion. Big, fat, hairy, check. She is telling you what is going on in her life, but it's very voicey, and she's a kind of mouthy person like that. And
well,
so
and we're getting this hint that, like, clearly the mom thinks that's acceptable. Tessa does not think that's acceptable.
Well, sure.
So, right.
There are tons of hints in here, but the point is that she's spending time on that third...
on the thought.
On the thought. And it's okay because that is the character's authentic experience.
And a lot of times that thought can be like a flash, just this flash of a memory. And I'm not talking big backstory, but like a one line that like grounds me in like, oh, of course that's why she's feeling what she's feeling, right? And we can flash back to something earlier in the story or something we've already given backstory on.
And it's also the perfect opportunity to do an actual real flashback. If you do a flashback, you do it during thought in the MRU. That's
but you just don't go... Hopefully my goal is to not go too far on those.
Right.
I feel like beginning writers, a lot of times what happens is right at the very beginning of their first page, they have a motivation, and then we have 2 pages of them thinking about the backstory of why.
Right. And it's because they don't want to have to explain it again. And what we want to do is just live it with the person. We want to know why they're upset specifically.
And if that part of a flashback gives us a question that we're willing to keep turning pages for, then that's good.
Right. So less is more on backstory. In any one given chunk, but describing why their thoughts, which is basically their memory and their previous experience, why their thoughts are causing them to have the emotions and the decisions and the actions that they're having, that's good. You do that over and over and over all throughout the story. And then we can see how they're changing too, because their experiences in the book that they're having are causing their thoughts to change, which is what the story is about. How much thought process would be too much? It really depends on the book, and this is what is so fun. We're going to talk about this when we talk about the example. I think it's super fun because books are so different. There's no right answer. A teeny bopper romance is going to go on and on and on about her feelings for this guy and how she was embarrassed, and then there's this one time.
She will, but that said, I usually will go on and on and on while I'm writing, but eventually there was one perfect sentence where I said it the best.
Yeah, and then
you know what I mean? But then later, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to trim.
It's still a style thing.
It is still a style thing.
It's still a style
thing. And if it's a literary thing...
Some readers want to read less and some readers want to read more.
But know your genre.
Yeah. And try to do what your genre is doing. But generally, less is more. Especially if you're telling a lot.
I always tell myself less is more because I'm a really bloated writer, so that's my problem.
Right. Plus, we also like telling stories.
Yeah.
We do. Like, in real life, we tell the story. We actually like having things happen to us, so we're like, oh,
this is drama. This is gold.
I can't wait to 20 minutes on this story. This is going to be awesome. You know, like that's just who we are. But not every character is like that. So, you know, you got to be authentic. Don't tell me that your reader or your character is not good socially if they're a really good storyteller.
And then, then have their thought process right?
So
I'm having such a struggle with my new middle grade.
Compelling.
The guy is super socially awkward. And my last character in this same book series was very articulate and well read.
Right.
And so the way she would describe everything would be like
so you're going to have to spend less time on thought.
Way less.
Way less time. And so you're going to have to beef up your other things.
And,
that would be fun
and my thought line has to be perfect because I still have to get across what the heck is making him do that next thing.
That's true. It has to be.
Chances are I'll spend a ton of time on thought and then I will weed back through and pick the one that makes everyone go, oh, he's a genius.
It's like poetry, guys. It's awesome. It really is. It's amazing.
Okay, setting.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to go setting or me?
No, you go.
Okay, so make your setting work for you. And we talked about that with the rain, so I don't think we have to go too far into this. But like, Nikki hasn't. Did you write any of these examples?
What you mean
by make it work for you? I mean, your setting needs to give me the emotional state of your character. There's that story about like I gave these people a barn, and I said describe this barn, and the one person's like, this barn is filled with despair. It is dark. The reds are bleeding, whatever. And the other person is just seeing this cheery, sunny, beautiful.
Settings are ink blots. They really are.
Yes.
You make your own image out of the setting.
Every character is going to sit in a chair, but is that chair going to be like a super soothing, relaxing experience, which this one is not. I'm just pretending I'm not going to rub my soul back on it. I'm just kidding. No, it's fine. I'm just teasing. I wasn't uncomfortable. No, but every character is going to sit in a chair, and is that chair going to be like prickly? Will the fabric scratch them the wrong way? Will they be cold? Will they, like when I have Tessa go into the abortion clinic, I don't say, the abortion clinic was super scary. I was super scared of the abortion clinic.
Right.
I have like the over-aggressive air conditioning and the like really sickly sweet lady who's helping her at the thing, but her nails are kind of a little bit, like I have all these things because Tessa's afraid of the clinic.
What she's doing is obviously Tessa probably felt something that was warm while she was there, but Heather skipped that part.
Right.
We don't tell you the parts that don't have anything to do with the story.
No, I'm trying to build your fear for her.
Is that she's afraid right now, so that's the part
she's about to make a big decision. She doesn't know about how she feels.
We skip over all the other stuff.
Right. And so I look around that room for the things that are going to feel. And I even have that the room is calculated to make her feel comfortable, but she still can't feel comfortable in it.
And even that makes her uncomfortable. The fact that they're like thinking
it's clearly like, look at this warm blankie we have here. Look at this, but it's like,
you
know, she's scared.
Right? So I had... Oh, and I did want to say this. When you describe your setting, so many times we just use our eyes. We just pick something and we describe it. And we talk about this later, where we are
it's all visual.
Yeah, not only is it all visual, but it's from our perspective right here. So here's my lens, and I look out, and I telescope over to an item, and then I describe it, and then I telescope back, and then I telescope to another item, and I describe it, and it's really boring. So what you want is to have the physical room interacting with their literal body. So you want to have like wind rushing across their face.
What do they smell? Right. What use the five senses?
Yes, you want to have things happening.
But don't say she smelled blah blah blah. She saw blah blah blah. Have we gotten there yet?
Yeah, I put. This is kind of dry, but like literally the chemical reaction of an onion hitting the nose.
Well,
so, like,
and that would be in a character who's like a scientist. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, like, yeah, that's true. That's
you're going to use who they are.
Right. That's true.
Like my next book is about this kid who thinks he's a superhero, and everything is going to have to be... The problem is I don't like superhero
That's
things
a good point, though. Analyze what's happening to them based on their viewpoint of what's happening to them. So if they're a physicist, their viewpoint of what's happening to them is altered compared to if they're a lifeguard or something.
Right. M. Perkins, my last middle grade book, she thinks she's invisible, so I frequently have her feeling transparent, feeling like she's like thin, like she's flat, like she's, you know, different.
Two-dimensional. I'm gonna go into my two-dimensional mode.
Well, that actually, awesome. That's a different book.
Yeah. So, notice, and this we already kind of talked about this, but the best scene building is. The best writing has no scene building moments. They have no paragraph dedicated to... This is what the room looked like. Yeah, here's what the room looked like, and here's the layout, and here's what this, and here's the paint color, and whatever. The best writing just incorporates that seamlessly into people's actions. What are they holding in their hand, and why? Yes. What are they needing to interact with in the room? Right. They only notice the things that are pressing on them or interacting with them in some way. That's true of this room. This room is full of things, by the way, that you can't see right now. But I don't care about any of them except this. Right now. Right. Because that's that's what's causing the motivation of us to talk. And whatever. And that's critical because if in your first scene, I just was reading a first scene today, and if you're reading a first scene, and we're doing things, we're going through and we're describing, but we don't know like the goal yet. The descriptions don't work. And some people tend to like. I'm reading a book with the main character who's like 50 right now. And she walks into a room, and everything is about function for her. So she does describe the paint, because the paint serves a function. The function is X. And she describes the whatever, and she just, and by the way, the function of that is what? This thing, you know? And she just I like it. That sounds very true to the character. Yeah, and then she just keeps going, like, it's no big deal. But that's, she just notices the functions of everything. That's powerful, I like it. Yeah, it's fun, you know? And she never says, I noticed the function of everything at any point. So don't say that. Just let them notice it or not notice it. Okay, you do make me feel it. Oh, okay. All right. Well, and this is hilarious because I'm telescoping in this example that I wrote up for us. But no, it's just the idea. And actually, my friend was telling me this the other day. She said, get rid of the distancing language. Telescoping is what yeah, where you see something and then you zoom out, binocular zoom in, and then you zoom out. Telescoping. So here's the thing: when we are watching a character, we don't want to watch Nikki seeing this lamp. Yes. I don't want you to write, Nick, it pulls you out of the story. Yeah. You're out right there. If I say about my viewpoint character, even in third person, I think sometimes people think with third person you have to say, Sarah saw the thing. Sarah, no, you don't have to say that. Just show us the thing. Yeah, you just say, and I mean, I just wrote here, but like it's not a big deal. You could say, I looked out the window across the lawn. I could see a tall oak spreading its leafy shade. No, you just say across the lawn, a tall oak spread its leafy shade. Yes, like, absolutely. Just get right to the oak tree. Yes. Don't make me stare at them before I can look at where they're looking. Yeah. Remember, the reader wants to be the lens. Right. They want to be in a VR experience. Like, how many of you have done the VR recently and you want to turn around? Okay, it's cool. They want to be able to be behind the camera. They don't want to have to watch the camera
shoot the movie.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to our MR unit. Remember, our motivation is what's happening to our character, and a lot of times that's going to involve physical things, so that's a way to describe the scene, okay? So describing your motivation well is, we're not going to focus on that as much, describing the motivation well, although we could probably do a webinar on that later. But once the motivation has happened, you're going to want to go into their internal reaction, right? Well, what you're going to want to avoid, if at all possible, is to say, here, I was frustrated. I felt sad.
No, the character can't begin without a goal ever.
Well,
no, they really cannot. No, here's what I'm saying.
They can.
No, okay, and I think we have this in the handout where I said...
have emotional need. Tessa doesn't have a goal yet.
No,
well,
so that's what I'm saying. She may not have a concrete goal.
That's true.
But what I said in here was you at least have to show me, in those very first scenes, you don't have to show me the concrete goal that will span the whole book because they may not know what that is until the inciting incident. But you have to show me, like, clearly Harry Potter wants someone to love him and not to live in the spider cabinet under the stairs, right? He doesn't sit there saying, boy, do I wish I had a family to love me and I was not living in the spider cabinet under the stairs. Boy, do I wish I did not have a fat pig of a brother, right?
They
or
might
like a cousin.
have a goal for how to solve their problem, but they need to have a discernible need.
A desire. An emotional desire that you can already feel. And even if, and the showing, not telling, is you don't tell me her desire is love.
Also,
you show me the lack. You show me list of things that makes an acceptable mother. Clearly, I'm setting up here, Tessa needs a mother, and that is what she needs.
Many characters start by trying to fulfill their need in a way that's not appropriate. So, like, we've talked about Home Alone before. Home Alone, the little guy, he just wants to be fun, he wants to be independent, he wants his own way, and his brother picks on him, his mom gets after him, and the policeman, and the blah, 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 and he's trying to be independent in all the wrong ways, and it's funny, you know, but we can see, we're like, oh, this story is going to be about him finding a way to be independent in a more appropriate way, which it is, and then he figures it out.
Right, so that
he gets to literally
you
be
are
independent
showing
for a
those
while.
seeds right there in the very beginning scenes. You're showing me the lack. I better see by the final scene. I better see that that's flipped.
Oh yeah, totally.
So in your opening image, you really are showing me what their goal is going to be, even if it's still very ethereal.
Right. Okay, and we have a whole webinar on that. Actually, we have several, so we'll hold off on that,
and I'll just read those.
I'll view whatever, but we'll cite those on a follow-up email. But let's go on to what time?
I think we're okay. What time is it?
Okay, well we have. We'll get a clock. Don't worry. You don't have to.
It's 8:35 with 25 whole minutes.
Okay, but that's not that long. Okay. Don't state emotions.
Okay, so that's the deal. We don't want to hear I was frustrated, I felt sad, I was angry. Like we just don't.
You can refer to emotions sometimes, and we're going to show an example of how to refer to emotion without just saying I was sad. But if you want to use an emotion word, but you can use. There are other things that you can use, and we're going to go. I have an entire. Actually,
arsenal?
Yes. Okay, here are some ways that you can show someone's emotion without saying he or she was sad. Now, a lot of this relies on some of the other parts of the MRU, so internal reaction, external reaction, thought.
And a lot of us rely too heavily on gasping, clenching.
Right. So let's
cliches
talk about
that don't actually make you feel the emotion.
Right. So this girl in this one story that I wrote, she's trying to do a pull-up. She's surrounded by people in this competition. It's really important to her that she do well and show up well. Okay, so the action, she tries it and she doesn't do the pull-up. She's not able to. So the action, the very next sentence is, I try over and over. After one failed attempt, I sag to the ground. So we're showing that she's frustrated and upset with herself.
In the sag.
Yeah, because she sags to the ground. And we use the language, the diction. So that's your verb choice. I don't say that she hopped to the ground. I say she sagged to the ground. The very next sentence, I'm a complete failure. So that's her thought. And yes, it is a thought there, but she doesn't say I was sad. She never actually says that.
I felt like a failure. Different.
Right.
For her to actually articulate something the way that a person would say it to themselves
That's
is
the way
different.
that she said it. Okay. The next thing she says, literally, is she describes in a sentence or two, she looks around, all the other kids are doing the pull-ups. So it's a straight comparison.
Right.
She's thinking about, I'm a failure. She looks at them. They're doing it awesome. You know she's comparing. You don't have to say, I compared myself.
And by the way, what would be the even stronger way to word that would be if she looks at them like someone specific and it's just watching. I didn't. Oh, this is just a description. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean,
so she's seeing a visual image that you could see too and is going to make you compare it, but she's not saying all the other kids can do that.
Cora is... I described Cora doing the pull-up and whatever.
Awesome.
So, and then the very next thing, somebody comes up to her and says, great job. And she says, shut up. So we can tell by her dialogue that she's upset. We never say she's upset. We just show that she's upset. I also, actually, the very next sentence happened to be, I don't smile, I don't get funky. Because she's a dancer, she's always doing like these funky, cute moves, you know? And so saying what they don't do, that they typically would do, is another way to show what they're feeling. And so that's another way. And then you can also use similes and metaphors. I used, she hitched her shirt onto her shoulder like she's a bull stamping the ground. So she's like ready to take someone on. She's fired up. She's ready to go. You know, she's mad. She's upset. And so think about those. So I have action, thought, comparison, dialogue, what you don't do, simile, and I thought I had one more. Well, whatever. I think I had one more already written on here.
Those are really helpful, and we should definitely type those up and send them in the afternoon.
I'll make sure that you get them in the afternoons.
And you don't have to use all of those, but you can use a couple of them, and she's used most of them in that scene, and clearly that's important.
Oh, it was a super pivotal moment, right?
This is a pivotal moment. You wouldn't do that for something that wasn't story important.
This was like super, this is like right at the climax. So, or well, it's like the, whatever.
Okay.
California rocks. Rock on.
Yes, we love California.
I like don't even know how to act Californian anymore. It's been 19 years since I lived in California.
I'm from Canada.
So sad. Yeah, but we're never going to forget you're from Canada because you're always bringing it up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I always bring up that she brings up that. Okay. Okay. Pick your opening. Oh, yeah. Tell us about this. Pick your opening.
Okay. You guys, here's the deal. When you're introducing the characters, sometimes I think you just want to like tell us that the character's a certain way or whatever. You have to show me what the lack is. So we got Harry Potter and he's in the closet under the stairs. Like we've got in M. Perkins, like my original scene was my book about the girl who thinks she's invisible was her sitting in a room thinking, I'm so invisible, I'm so invisible, it's sad how invisible I am.
Right.
And my readers were like, I don't buy it. She's just hanging out at home. There's nothing to show me she's invisible. And so I changed that scene. So now she's at home angrily calling her dad because he's promised her that they're going to go to her favorite place in the world. And when she finally gets a hold of him, he's gone without her. He forgot she was even home. He thought it was not even... So we've just been like, she's invisible, right? So she starts with a scene goal of like, get a hold of dad, get to the place, get this attention I've been lacking. And then we find out like he's just so up in his head that he forgot she existed, basically.
Right.
So
which causes her to
the difference is I moved my scene. I didn't even move it very far, but I had to make sure that in that opening scene where I'm trying to say she's invisible, I can show the reader she is invisible by something that she does and something that is actually happening that is character driven.
Right. So the main thing that's going to give them, when you said did they have to have a goal, they do have to have small scene goals, like you said.
So her scene goal is get a hold of dad.
Right.
That is not her goal for the whole book. Right?
And then we have to show that there's some kind of problem that happens there, and it has to be a big enough problem, a catalyst, that she's going to get a large goal to solve this once
we
and for all.
We can tell, right? This is not going to be a book about a girl who has a crush on a boy. Right? That's not the point. Right. So start the book, and if you may be starting in the wrong place, and it's very likely that you are, and
if you have to say she was spunky instead of like
spunky. I just watched this chapter where that spunky kid.
Yeah, she was so spunky. Like there was no question. Nobody ever questioned that.
Don't tell me in that first chapter. I do not want to hear. You guys, oh no, I can't even say it because if I say it, you'll know what book I'm talking about. But I just read a book where they did this, and it was so egregious. It was like she used to be whimsical. How long had it been since she had done a whimsical thing? No whimsy was in her world, basically, okay? It was the worst.
I read a book, I gave it a 1. I've never given a book a 1 ever until this book. I actually deleted it because I felt bad afterwards because I was like, you can't give somebody a 1 on Goodreads. But they literally told me how funny the dang character was, like, every third page. And she literally, the whole book, I don't even know how you could write a book where the character never did or said anything funny ever. I don't even know how you could do that. But she did. And then somehow I was supposed to believe that the kid was funny. I was like,
you know what I used to do? I'd be like, I told this joke. Then we laughed so hard. Our faces turned red. The tears were streaming. I'm like, no, friends. It wasn't a funny joke.
Don't ever tell your reader that you were funny. Just if they think it's funny, then they'll laugh. And if they don't think it's funny, then you got away with it.
You gotta show them you're funny. And the same with smart. You cannot go on and on and on about how savvy and intrepid your character is. Show them savvy and intrepid or get off it.
You should do one on that. The how to be smarter than a 5th grader.
I'm so bad at that.
No, I think you're good. Plus That's fun to talk about. Okay, we're going to go on to, you have some examples there. I don't think,
We could jump. Oh, you mean about these?
Yeah, well, I can just, so Taylor Swift sometimes tells, it's not bad to tell. You just don't want to have your whole story be telling. And you want to make sure that the telling comes in the correct spot, which is the third step of an MRU. Always. So Taylor Swift says, oh my gosh, look at that face. You look like my next mistake. That's like that's what she would tell somebody in a conversation. Oh my gosh, look at him.
He totally looks
like the next guy I'm going to hook up with, you know? But then in the chorus, she says, but I've got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name. Which to me is hearkening to like the old dance cards where they would like write each other's names down.
And it's very a metaphor.
Totally metaphorical.
And great.
And every Taylor Swift song is pretty good. You should read it.
She's pretty good. She's pretty good.
Yeah. And she has good voice, so when she uses telling, it's entertaining. She's a good storyteller that way. And then when she shows, it's usually succinct and it has an image involved, and it's really good. So you should try it.
I wanted to find you a perfect example of using metaphor for this. Are we going to metaphor at this point? Are we talking about that?
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I switched these on. I didn't switch it on this.
Oh, it's really fine. I wanted to give you guys a great example of metaphor, and so I'm going to paraphrase a great example of metaphor given to me by the author who wrote the great example. But you guys, so Martine Levitt was teaching a class on this, and she's like genius. If you ever can like hear something about her metaphor stuff, she's awesome. But one of the things she said was like she wrote a story about a goat, and the goat comes to the road, and the thought is the goat was scared to cross the road. So the goat comes up to the road, and instead of saying, I'm scared, she says, the road, whatever it is, it smelled of something and old blood. Like there was this thing, this sense, and like this, oh my gosh, like you feel this visceral, ugh.
Like, oh, there's no way I can cross that.
But it's a perfect way to use your metaphor. And then the other thing I wanted to say about metaphors, because I can't go into it for very long, but objective, correlative, I'm just going to click done here. On the storage. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Objective correlative, if you don't know what that is, go ahead and look it up. But basically what it means is having a giant metaphor that is workable through the entire book. So like with my superhero book, I've got to do something related to superheroes. Right. Something about their powers. Something about, like, I'm going to watch a lot of Ninja Turtles because that's what he's obsessed with, and I'm going to find my big metaphor there. Right. And then I'm going to find, you
usually want to destroy that object or that... You want to, like, 2/3 of the way through the book when you have your big crisis. Like, if your metaphors are all about fire, you want to, like, light something on fire. Or if it's a fear of fire, then whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you really want to have that metaphor really work for you at the end, too.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. And then there's M. Perkins. She's invisible, and anytime she's feeling unseen, she becomes invisible. Right at the end, when she's losing all hope of becoming visible, she is actually in darkness, and there are camera lights on the other guy who she's given her visibility to, and she is sitting in darkness as it just, like, closes her in. Right. You know, so I use that metaphor through the whole book. When I wrote the book about Tessa, she's pregnant. It was perfect. Like, her pregnant belly and her physical discomfort and the changes in how she felt.
And the problem gets bigger and bigger.
The problem is, and there's nothing you can do to escape it, and you're going to, so I had my objective correlative just given to me there. Right. So look at your story, find out what your big metaphor is, and you can use that metaphor. Don't, like, kill it to death. Yeah. But you could use it probably 10 different times in your story. It can just be there, and it can be very subtle.
And plus, like, librarians love it. So when you get
her belly is literal.
Totally, like...
But it's metaphorical, too. It's so great. But anyway.
Okay, we're going to go on to now, I'm going to show you the examples. So we're going to say goodbye on Facebook Live. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining.
I think we did it. I'm so excited. So, if you want to see some examples of this, it'll just be like 20 minutes. Just hit us up on YouTube. You can go to my website, and there should be a link there. And also, there should be a link right here on the Facebook thing. Okay?
Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Have fun. Good luck.